At the age of 16, she defected to the West from Czechoslovakia and went on to become the greatest tennis player of all time. At the age of 50, she's finally retired, but not before winning the mixed double title at the US Open. Martina Navratilova, thank you very much for joining us and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Tumi. Thanks for having me.
First off, tell us a little bit about what you're doing in South Africa.
Well, I came here for a 3-day meeting that the Laureus World Sports Academy has here. We have a forum every year, and this year it was in Johannesburg. So I came for 3 days of meetings and visiting the projects that we fund through the foundation. So my first visit here, about time.
This is the first time? Wow, I think that will be a surprise to many people. What is it that has struck you most in your visit thus far about South Africa?
Well, I haven't been here for 1 day so far. I've been sitting inside a room most of that time. I haven't seen a McDonald's, which is good.
There are plenty.
Seen a lot of fences with a lot of barbed wire on top. That disturbed me a little bit. People have been very friendly, very nice, very welcoming, happy to have us here, and we're very thrilled to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about your philanthropic work. Many people who know anything about you will know that you do a lot of work with various organizations and charities. What is it that drove you or moved you to do that?
Well, I always wanted to help the underdog, and I always felt that I was very fortunate that I had the opportunity to play tennis and make a career out of it, and I wanted to give something back, whether it was to the sport or to others less fortunate, and particularly those that can't help themselves, which means the environment, the animals. Those were my big babies from the beginning, and children, because all these people or factions don't have any choice, don't have the say of what their future is. So I've always been involved in those three factions particularly.
Have you noticed, since beginning to work with various charities and organizations, that there has been any kind of shift in people's mindsets and attitude toward whether it's children, animals, the environment, etc.?
Well, the environment, I think, we're doing pretty well under President Clinton in the U.S. anyway, since United States of America is the biggest polluter. We actually create 25% of the world's pollution and garbage, but are not very good at cleaning it up. So under President Clinton, we're doing pretty well, but since our President Bush has come into power, all that's sort of been going downhill, and so the environmental organizations have been suffering. Of course, after 9/11, most of the money went elsewhere, and so these organizations have really been suffering. So I've been trying to help raise awareness for the environment and the animals, because they're the ones that have been suffering the most.
Of course, the United States is your adoptive country, if you will. You became a citizen in 1981. You, though, also recently have been very critical of the government in the United States. And you even went as far as to compare it to the behavior of your former country, or your country of birth, Czechoslovakia.
Right. I made a statement to the tune of that so far as I could see, the Bush administrations made every decision on money. The decisions were based on money rather than what's right for the country and what's right for the world. And I got criticized like you would not believe. Already then they were calling me unpatriotic. This is prior to 9/11.
Yeah, I think someone even suggested that if you're not happy, why don't you go back to
the Czech Republic, which it's kind of ironic, because the whole point of living in America, living in a democracy, is the fact that you can speak your mind without paying price for it. In Czechoslovakia, of course, you would go to prison, or they would, in worse off times, would send you off to Siberia, never to be heard from again. And here I was in a free country, and I was suffering for speaking my mind, which to me, if you care about something, you speak out. That to me is more patriotic than being quiet when you don't like something and not doing anything about it. So silence equals agreement, to my mind. But coming from a communist system, communist regime, I sort of recognize the signs when your freedoms are being squashed, and when you can't speak your mind, you can't say what you feel, can't say what you think. and without repercussions. And so now finally people are sort of starting to come around. It'll be an interesting shift, I think, in our politics if we do get more Democrats in power, and hopefully affect the world opinion of the United States in a positive way, because we definitely need a shift in a positive direction.
You've quite happily on numerous occasions defined yourself as an activist, and I think anybody who knows anything about you would probably agree with that sentiment. One of the things that you speak a lot about are gay, lesbian rights issues. An interesting question that in South Africa we're currently dealing with is the question of gay marriages or people being allowed to be seen as gay in terms of the law. And essentially our constitution in this country guarantees people the ability to do so, although there are still challenges in actually actioning that. It's quite a different situation in the U.S.
It's amazing, isn't it, that in Czech Republic, we gays and lesbians have more equal rights than we do have in the United States. In South Africa, where apartheid ruled, 17 years ago, you now have surpassed us in social issues, and we're still in the Puritan ages. The gay marriage question is kind of funny, because it cracks me up, not in a funny way, that people should really care that much. Number one, whether I am married, and number two, whether my partner is a man or a woman. It does not affect anybody but me and my partner. And equal rights for gays and lesbians is equal human rights, period.
When you confront someone very directly with that question, to say, why does it matter whom I choose? What is the response that people get you? Because I think it's one thing when it's Joe Blogg on the street, but because you're such a high-profile person, that may perhaps taint the way people will respond to.
Well, it's because who I am, I can speak out and perhaps change some people's minds that are not quite sure where they stand, or not sure what gays are all about, and I put a human face to it, which is why I encourage all gays and lesbians to come out and be public, at least to their friends and family, about who they are, so that it then becomes much more difficult to discriminate. Discrimination really only is alive and well thanks to ignorance or not knowing what the other people are about. We have much bigger issues to deal with, like the Iraq War, like healthcare insurance for every man, woman, and child, like hunger in our own country, never mind the rest of the world. We have 60 million people a year dying from hunger, and diseases like malaria are rampant, and HIV/AIDS, that's a problem. Gay marriage, it's not a problem for everyday person.